How the cosmic Energizer can work miracles of healing for you. Records of man's mental and physical illnesses, as recorded in the Bible, have reoccurred from time immemorial up to the present moment. You may see the conditions and symptoms of diseases described in the Bible in almost any hospital in the country. It is true, of course, that the diseases described today have scientific names derived from medical terminology. However, all over the world, men and women of various religious beliefs are awakening to the tremendous therapeutic results following the application of mental and spiritual laws. In medicine, psychiatry, psychology, and other related fields, evidence is being adduced and articles written on mental and emotional conflicts as the underlying cause of all kinds of destructive disease. The cosmic Energizer, the infinite healing presence, is the basis of all healing. All healing takes place according to the belief of the individual. The subconscious mind is the creative faculty within us and manifests whatever the conscious mind impresses upon it. The conscious mind impresses its thought upon it. The thought is the expression of the belief, hence, whatever is impressed on the subconscious mind, the latter reproduces according to our belief. The wrong belief, which externalizes as sickness, is the belief that some secondary cause, which is only a condition, is a primary cause. She changed her belief and had a miraculous healing. I had a most interesting talk a few days ago with a taxi driver. He told me that his mother was in the habit of saying, "I suppose one of these days I will get arthritis and be crippled like my mother and grandmother." He said that as a boy he thought nothing of it, until the day came when his mother actually became crippled with arthritis and was hospitalized. Her son took her a copy of The Power of Your Subconscious Mind and said to her, "Mother, read this." She did so, at the same time saying to him, "I want you to pray for me." The physician in attendance told this young man that his mother would have to use a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Following the reading of the book and the constructive suggestions of her son, however, she realized what had caused her arthritic condition, her subconscious mind. Being impersonal, it had accepted her negative statement, which she had repeated over and over again. "I suppose I will get arthritis just like my mother and grandmother." Actually, she realized she had brought it on herself, as the subconscious takes you literally. Her new attitude changed everything. She realized that she had to reverse her thinking. Accordingly, at my suggestion, several times a day, she reiterated certain truths that her subconscious accepted. I wrote out the following prayer for her. Living Spirit within me is the infinite healing presence. I am now planting the idea of wholeness, vitality, and perfect health in my subconscious mind. Divine love flows through me, dissolving everything unlike itself. Divine peace fills my soul. The vitality and intelligence of the infinite healing presence permeates and penetrates down to my innermost depths in my subconscious mind. I know that every time I use this prayer, I am strengthening my subconscious mind in its hold on this new belief until I again walk freely and joyously. Her son continued to pray for his mother in a similar way, and though she came home using a wheelchair, in a month's time she became completely healed and now comes every Sunday to hear me at the Wilshire Ebell Theater in Los Angeles. How she released the cosmic Energizer's healing power. Some months ago, I had the opportunity to observe the wonderful results of a mother who had the faith to believe in the infinite healing presence within her subconscious mind. She brought her 5-year-old son to see me. He seemed to be an exceptionally fine, healthy boy, but the mother said that he had been suffering from severe asthmatic attacks, and that the medicine he was taking did not always suppress the attacks. The boy's father had passed on shortly after he was born, and the asthmatic condition had come on about 6 months previous to seeing me. I told her that she could again see her boy whole and perfect. St. Augustine said, "For what is faith unless it is to believe what you do not see?" She set herself the task of demonstrating her faith in the cosmic Energizer. This mother had a wonderful knowledge of mental and spiritual laws and said to me, "I know that my prayer of faith, though denied by the evidence of my senses, if persevered in, will be deposited in my subconscious mind and come to pass." 3 or 4 times a day, she became still and quiet, and in her imagination, she pictured her boy in front of her saying, "Mom, God healed me." I feel wonderful. She persisted in this mental image, and at the end of a month, the boy was completely free from the paroxysmal attacks of asthma. Her favorite quotation is, "For we walk by faith, not by sight," 2 Corinthians. She disciplined her mind and knew that her constructive thought image and the invisible mold created by her in her mind would be subjectified and come to pass. You can practice the absent healing technique. The cosmic energizer is the life principle which animates all people. For example, if your brother is in a foreign country and you wish to pray for him, you must remember that there is no hard and fast line of demarcation between personalities, as subjectively, we are all one. When you think of your loved one, there is no time or space in your subconscious mind. Therefore, he picks up your thought of wholeness, beauty, vitality, and love, and these qualities are resurrected within him. The action is that of your conscious mind towards your loved one or friend, and his willingness to receive this is called being in rapport with the other person. The cosmic energizer, or the living spirit God, is present in its entirety at every point simultaneously. When you give absent treatment or pray for another person who is not present objectively, you can decree wholeness and vitality to the subconscious mind of the sick friend, as though it were your own, and according to your belief and conviction, results will follow. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs. Miraculous healing of a child dying with fever. While writing this chapter, I received a long-distance phone call from Georgia. The woman who had called me said that her child was dying, that the medicine given did not reduce the fever, and that there seemed to be no hope. I explained to her that the child, 6 years old, would respond to her faith and confidence in the infinite healing presence within the child. This mother, at my suggestion, was to withdraw her thought from the contemplation of fever and symptoms and from the corporeal personality altogether, and then to affirm knowingly and feelingly. The cosmic energizer, the living spirit almighty, is the life of my child. God's river of peace saturates her whole being. God's love fills her soul. The vitalizing, healing, harmonizing power of God is made manifest in her mind and body now. The vitality and intelligence of God are resurrected now, and I give thanks. She repeated this prayer for about 1/2 hour over and over again, knowing that the subconscious mind of her child would become thoroughly imbued with the realization of its own healing power, and that health would be restored. At the end of 1/2 hour, the child's temperature became normal, and the medical doctor said to the mother, "A higher power did this." The child asked to play with her dog and also for something to eat. Let the weak say, "I am strong." Joel 3:10. Steps in mental and spiritual healing. The first step you must take is to refuse to be afraid of the manifest conditions from this very moment. The second step is to come to the realization that the condition is but the product of negative thinking, which will have no power to continue its existence. The third step is to exalt the healing power of the cosmic energizer within the person. This will stop the production of all toxins in you or the person you are praying for. Pronounce the condition false. Lift the person up in your mind, seeing the sick person as he ought to be, happy, joyous, and free. Live in the embodiment of your desire, and the word, your thought and feeling will be made manifest. How a minister released the healing power. Recently, I talked with a minister from New York City who informed me that he gets wonderful results by using one of my books, Miracle of Mind Dynamics. His wife had tuberculosis and was not responding to therapy or to the climate in Tucson, Arizona, where she had spent an entire summer. This minister friend of mine selected a passage from the Bible. Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always." John 11:41-42. 3 or 4 times a day, he would calm his mind, relax, and let go. Then he would imagine that he was talking to the invisible healing presence within. And his inner speech was, "Thank you, Father, for my wife's miraculous healing." He repeated this over and over again until his mind was saturated with the feeling of thankfulness. His wife continued the same technique. At the end of a month, the sputum and all other tests were completely negative. As they lifted up their minds and hearts to the infinite healing presence, they released the healing power. Their inner speech agreed with their aim. Ouspensky had a favorite saying, which was that your inner speech, your inner conversation, your silent thought, must agree with your aim or desire in life. It is your inner speech or conversation that is always made manifest. In this instance, their inner speech agreed with their aims of wholeness, beauty, and perfection. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, the condition, symptom, or problem, will draw all men manifestations unto me. John 12:32. The master key to spiritual healing. The ideal way to practice spiritual mind healing is to completely withdraw all thought from symptoms and from the corporeal condition altogether, and to think of the person for whom you are praying as a purely spiritual being. In other words, identify with the spirit or cosmic energizer within him, and then claim that what is true of the spirit is true of the person you are trying to help. In this technique, you realize that the spirit, God, is omnipotent and entirely free from subjection to any condition. You affirm that the patient is now expressing the vitality, intelligence, wholeness, and power that constitute the spirit. The patient is open and receptive to your affirmations of truth, and his subconscious mind becomes charged with the constructive spiritual thoughts of the healer. Wholeness, vitality, and strength are resurrected, and health is substituted for sickness. How he was snatched from death's door. A woman came to see me a few months ago, saying that her husband was afflicted with delirium tremens, usually called the DTs. His heart was fibrillating, and he was also hallucinating. The doctor said his death was only a matter of hours. She asked me to go with her to the hospital, as he was asking for me and had been listening to my radio programs on Kiev every morning. He was under sedation of morphine, but was nevertheless coherent and rational. He was a chronic alcoholic, and during the bedside conference, recited all the crimes he had committed, which were many. He said, "I'm at the end of my rope. I'm dying. Will I go to hell?" He had old-fashioned religious ideas, even though he had discontinued going to any church. I explained to him that the life principle, God never condemns, that all judgment is given to the Son, which means our mind, and that we judge ourselves and make our own hell, restriction, bondage, and own heaven, peace, harmony, good health, etc. I further explained to him that all he had to do was to forgive himself for all his past transgressions and to resolve not to commit them again. Furthermore, he could join with me now, and we would release all those for whom he had a grudge or resentment, as well as all those who had passed over into the next dimension. I told him that perfunctory prayer is not the answer, but instead a real change of heart, where from the depths of himself he had to really wish for all those for whom he had past resentments to have health, happiness, peace, and all the blessings of life. He named about 10 persons, some in the next dimension sent there by himself, and we began to pour out God's love, peace, joy, and all the blessings of life upon each one. Suddenly he seemed radiant and happy. The reason for this was that he now had a deep inner faith that there was no power up there which was going to punish him. He felt that he was on the right side of God, and that all was forgiven. He relaxed and was ready for what he termed heaven. The psychiatrist and nurse noted a remarkable physical improvement, and the new prognosis was that he would live. In a few days he was whole and perfect. The man is now vital, alive, and bubbling over with enthusiasm. His forgiveness of himself and others, his relaxed attitude, and his surrender to God immediately released his mind and body from the presence of pain, fear, guilt, and hatred. His body responded in a miraculous manner to his new mental attitude. His inner sense of freedom and peace of mind released the healing power of the cosmic Energizer, and he was a new man in God. He realized that self-condemnation is hell, and that self-forgiveness is heaven, a mind at peace. How the law of mind forgives and heals. The law of your subconscious mind has nothing to do with goodness, badness, creeds, dogmas, or religious persuasions. The law is impersonal, for God is no respecter of persons. The sun shines upon the unjust as it does upon the just. The rain falls on the good and the evil. There is no morality in the law of your mind. It is always impartial, impersonal, and neutral. Morality depends on your motivation and how you use the law of mind. Your thought carries its own reward. Your idea, desire, plan, or purpose is good or bad, depending on the nature of the desire or plan itself. Choose good and good follows. You can bring your desire to pass without hurting a hair of a living being in this world. Paul says that love is the fulfilling of the law. Romans 13:10. This means that when you think right, feel right, act right, and do right, you have used the law constructively, and you will have goodwill toward all. This outreaching of your heart toward others will cause them to react in a similar manner toward you. Forgiveness and healing. In the Bible is the statement that you are to forgive until 70 times 7. Matthew 18:22. This is a figurative expression, which means 1,000 times a day if necessary, or a constant spirit of forgiveness. Your mind is a principle, and when you use the principle in the right way, it has no grudge against you. For example, if you use the principles of mathematics, chemistry, or electricity in an ignorant or erroneous way, these same principles would not hurt you, condemn you, or punish you when you began to use them in the right way. A new beginning is a new end. The life principle never condemns or punishes you. Actually, you punish yourself by misuse of the law and by negative thinking. The marvelous and wonderful truth to learn is that you forgive yourself on the basis of a scientific mental law, which is that your subconscious mind automatically reverses its action toward you when you begin to think the right way. It makes no difference whether you are an alcoholic, dope fiend, mugger, thief, rapist, murderer, or sadist. The law of your subconscious does not hold any grudge against you. Neither does it react negatively anymore once you have made a sincere decision to become a transformed man and to practice and live the truths of God, which are the same yesterday, today, and forever. All our derelictions, sins, errors, crimes, hostilities, and resentments are wiped out when we change our hearts and acknowledge that the love and harmony of God reign supreme in our lives. When divine love, divine harmony, and divine peace dominate your mind and heart, the law of your subconscious, being compulsive, will compel you to express the qualities and attributes of God, and all your ways will be ways of pleasantness, and all your paths will lead to peace. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark. Philippians 3:13-14. Points to remember. 1. All over the world today, men and women of various religious beliefs are awakening to the tremendous therapeutic results following the application of mental and spiritual laws. 2. All healings take place according to the belief of the individual or that of his doctor or practitioner. The subconscious mind is the creative medium and the healer of the body. Whatever the conscious mind impresses on the subconscious, the latter faithfully reproduces. 3. The mother of a taxi driver began to read the power of your subconscious mind and realized that she had been constantly fearing and expecting to be crippled with arthritis because her mother and grandmother had been afflicted with this disease. She changed her attitude and began to affirm regularly, systematically and conscientiously, that the cosmic Energizer within her, which is the infinite healing presence, was flowing through her as harmony, vitality, and wholeness, and that she was energized and transformed by the healing presence. She also pictured herself as walking and doing all the things she would do were she whole and perfect. Her son kept praying for her, also, claiming that divine love, peace, and harmony saturated the mind and heart of his mother. His mental image, which he constantly viewed, was his mother at home, vital, alive, and quickened by the Spirit. His image agreed with his affirmation, and the so-called miracle happened. All the calcareous deposits were dissolved, and she walks freely and joyously now. 4. A mother whose 5-year-old son had paroxysmal attacks of asthma, and whose medicine did not always succeed in suppressing them, decided to call on the infinite healing presence within her and the boy. Several times a day she sat still, immobilized her attention, and in a passive, receptive frame of mind, imagined her little boy saying to her, "Mom, God healed me. I feel wonderful." She did this over and over again until she felt the naturalness and reality of it all. It was a vivid, realistic drama in her mind. At the end of a month's time, he was completely free and bubbling over with enthusiasm. 5. The cosmic Energizer is the life principle, or infinite healing presence, which animates all people. If you wish to pray for a friend or relative thousands of miles away, there is no time or space in mind. Spirit is omnipresent, and if you wish to help your friend, go within yourself and contemplate the wholeness, beauty, vitality, intelligence, and power of the infinite, and claim that what is true of God is true of your friend. Do this until you become quiet and relaxed, and feel that that is all you can do for the present. Later on, when you feel led to pray, repeat the prayer process as if you were doing it for the first time. Each time you are penetrating deeper into your subconscious mind, as well as that of your friend, and he will experience a resurrection of what you feel and believe. 6. A mother whose child was dying of fever and who failed to respond to medication withdrew all thought of fever and bodily conditions. She sat down by the child and affirmed with faith and confidence, "God's river of peace saturates the whole being of my child. The vitalizing, healing, harmonizing power of God is made manifest in her mind and body now." She continued for about 1/2 hour, and the child's temperature became normal. She asked for food and her dog to play with. The subconscious mind of the child was impregnated with the truths affirmed by the mother, and immediate results followed. 7. The first step in mental and spiritual healing is not to be afraid of disease or condition. The second step is to come to the conclusion that the condition is but a product of negative thinking, which will have no power to continue its existence. The third step is to exalt the healing power of the cosmic Energizer within. This attitude of mind will stop the production of all toxins in you or in the person for whom you are praying. 8. A minister brought about a wonderful healing of his wife's tubercular condition by meditating on one of the verses of the Bible and reiterating it over and over again, until it became embodied in his subconscious mind and that of his wife. He turned within as if addressing the infinite presence and affirmed, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always." John 11:41-42. He kept on thanking the infinite for his wife's miraculous healing, knowing that the grateful heart is always close to God. A complete healing of the tubercular condition took place. 9. The master key to spiritual healing is to refrain from thinking of symptoms and conditions, but to think of the living spirit within, which is the God presence, and then to affirm that the love, peace, harmony, joy, wholeness, vitality, and intelligence of the cosmic Energizer animates, sustains, restores, and heals the person for whom you pray. You should also imagine the person as the person ought to be: happy, joyous, whole, vital, and in perfect condition. Your mental image must always agree with your affirmation. You can pray this way as often as you deem necessary, and according to your faith will you see results. 10. An alcoholic felt guilty and feared death. When it was explained to him that he creates his own heaven and hell, he felt relieved. He learned the law of forgiveness and realized that there was no one punishing him but himself, and that the grudges, peeves, and resentments he harbored were poisoning himself, because whatever he was thinking about others, he was creating in his own life, since thought is creative. He decided to forgive himself and others, and he meant it. Love came into his soul and peace into his mind. He felt he was on the right side of God and that all was forgiven. A remarkable healing followed, and he left the hospital in a few days. He is a transformed man today. He discovered that self-forgiveness is heaven, mind at peace, and self-condemnation is hell, restriction and bondage. 11. The law of forgiveness is a scientific law of mind. Your mind is a principle, and the minute you begin to use it the right way, there is an automatic response of your subconscious mind to correspond with your conscious direction and contemplation. This is why you read in the 100th Psalm, "His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations." Psalm. The principles of chemistry, mathematics, electricity, etc. hold no grudges against you because you misuse them. The minute you use these principles in the right way, right results follow. This is why even murderers, as well as alcoholics, thieves, dope addicts, and sex fiends who have an intense desire to become new men in God, discover that the past is forgotten and remembered no more the minute they begin to fill their subconscious with the truths of God. Perfunctory prayer won't do this, but when a real inner transformation takes place and you possess a hunger and thirst to do the right thing, then this seeming miracle takes place. A new beginning is a new end. 12. Forgive until 70 times 7 is a figurative biblical expression, which means your life should be dominated by a constant attitude of forgiving or giving for. Continue supplanting negative thoughts with constructive, harmonious thoughts, and then you are constantly forgiving yourself. Your thoughts about another are also your thoughts about yourself. You are the only thinker in your world, and your thought is definitely creative. You and you alone are responsible for the way you think. Whatever you think or wish for another, you are creating in your own body, experiences, conditions, and events. It behooves you to forgive 70 times 7. 13. All our shortcomings and derelictions are completely forgiven when we become dominated by divine love, harmony, and peace. Then the law of our subconscious responds accordingly. And since the law of our mind is compulsive, we find ourselves compelled to ways of pleasantness and to paths of peace. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. Psalm